Why do I lose interest the moment someone actually likes me back? That's the surge. Typed by people who can chase for months, then go cold the second the chasing stops being necessary. Why do I feel suffocated by people who are good to me? Why do I push people away right when things start going well? If you're here, you've probably felt it. Someone shows up consistently. They're kind, available, honest about how they feel. And instead of relief, you feel something closer to panic. A pull to create distance, find a flaw, disappear for a few days for no real reason. Here's what I need you to hear first. This isn't you being broken or incapable of love. It's a strategy, one your nervous system built a long time ago and has been running on autopilot ever since. Today, we're going to open it up and look at exactly how it works. Let's begin with the wiring itself. In the 1970s, psychologist Mary Ainsworth ran a study now considered foundational in developmental psychology, the strange situation. She observed how infants reacted when separated from and reunited with a caregiver. Most children showed distress at separation and sought comfort on reunion. But a distinct group did something different. They showed little visible distress when the caregiver left and actively avoided contact when the caregiver returned, even while their heart rate and stress hormones spiked internally. Ainsworth called this the avoidant attachment pattern. The child hadn't stopped needing comfort. They'd learned that asking for it didn't reliably work, so the nervous system did the only thing it could to keep functioning. It suppressed the need itself before it could be disappointed again. That's not a flaw in the system. That's the system succeeding at its actual job, protecting a child from repeated disappointment the only way it had available. The problem is that the system never got the memo that childhood ended. Psychologists Mario Mikulincer and Philip Shaver, who have spent decades researching adult attachment, describe this as a set of deactivating strategies. In adulthood, the pattern doesn't look like a toddler ignoring a parent. It looks like a fully grown, articulate adult who suddenly finds someone's texts annoying instead of nice, who mentally lists their partner's flaws right after a genuinely good night together, who feels an urge to end things the moment this could actually work becomes a real possibility. The nervous system isn't malfunctioning in that moment. It's doing exactly what it was trained to do decades earlier, treating closeness itself as the threat and manufacturing distance before the closeness can be taken away. Here's where it gets sharper, more personal, more clinical. This isn't only about whether you had good or bad parents in some obvious sense. Attachment researchers point to a specific pattern that produces this outcome most reliably: inconsistent or conditional emotional availability. A caregiver who was there sometimes and not others, who offered warmth when you performed well and withdrew it when you needed them the most. Not necessarily cruelty, often just a parent who was themselves overwhelmed, distracted, or emotionally unavailable in their own right. A child raised in unpredictable warmth learns a very specific rule: closeness is unreliable, so don't build your stability on it. Depend on yourself instead. That rule is, in almost every practical sense, a survival skill. It gets you through childhood. It just becomes a liability in adult relationships, where the entire point is to let someone in. And here's the part that makes this pattern so difficult to catch in yourself. Deactivating strategies don't feel like fear. They feel like clarity. In the moment you're pulling away, it doesn't feel like panic. It feels like you've simply, rationally noticed something wrong with this person. A flaw that suddenly seems disqualifying. A sense that they are too much or not quite right after all. Researchers have a name for this too. It's a form of cognitive reframing your own nervous system performs automatically, turning "I am afraid of depending on you" into "you are not actually worth depending on." The second story is much easier to live with. It just isn't the true one. So let's be honest about the actual cost of running this pattern unexamined. People with strong avoidant tendencies are, in research, more likely to end relationships that were genuinely working, more likely to describe long-term partners as too clingy, even at ordinary levels of closeness, and more likely to feel a persistent loneliness they can't quite explain, because the same system built to protect them from disappointment is also the one keeping them from ever finding out whether this time might have been different. The tragedy isn't that you're incapable of being loved well. The tragedy is that when it happens, your oldest system mistakes it for danger and pushes away the one thing it was built, underneath everything, to actually want. It's a closed loop. And closed loops don't fix themselves. They have to be interrupted deliberately from the outside. So here's the clinical reframe, and I want you to actually sit with this one. The urge to create distance from someone who's treating you well is not evidence that something is wrong with them. It's a signal from an outdated protection system, still running a program written for a much younger version of you, in a situation that no longer applies. You don't fix it by forcing yourself to stay through the discomfort and pretending it isn't there. That just teaches the system to suppress harder. You fix it by naming the mechanism the moment it activates. Notice the urge to list their flaws right after real closeness. Notice the impulse to withdraw right when things go well. And instead of obeying it, just observe it. Ask, is this about them? Or is this the old rule firing on a new person who hasn't actually done anything wrong? That single pause, noticing the mechanism instead of being run by it, is one of the most consistently effective starting points in attachment-focused therapy for exactly this pattern. You are not incapable of connection. You're running a very old, very effective piece of software in an environment it was never built for. The version of you that stays one extra week when the urge to disappear shows up, that says the vulnerable thing instead of manufacturing the exit. That version isn't reckless. It's finally responding to the person in front of you, instead of the disappointment your alarm system keeps insisting is coming. If this helped you see the mechanism instead of just feeling it, subscribe to Morphic Depth. We take the psychology apart, piece by piece, so the fear stops running the show.